All right, well, that wasn't fun. That was ugly. Let's get right to it. The Pistons beat the Knicks 126-111 in a disappointing showing at the Garden. The effort just did not seem to be there. Jalen Brunson seemed to be the only one to show up. Very disappointing considering the fact that I was very high going into the All-Star break when it comes to this team. I thought that they might have changed course a little bit. I know they had that loss against the Indiana Pacers, which was pretty disappointing, but I did not expect them to lay an egg at home against the Detroit Pistons, a team that pretty much obliterated them twice early in the year in Detroit. You're going to have them back at the Garden in a playoff-type atmosphere. It was our turn to show them who was boss, and we just could not do it. It was just a horrible performance from the team. There's no two ways about it. Could not make a shot from three. Jalen Brunson was our only form of offense for a while. I don't understand why this team goes out and gets Karl-Anthony Towns if you're not going to use him on the offensive end. No pick and pops, really no pick and roll situations there, not even getting the ball in the post. I mean, he finished with a decent game scoring-wise, but he was just really not involved when it was important and when the game was being decided. OG Anunoby coming back from a toe injury did not look like himself, shot 3 of 13, just could not hit anything, and Mikal Bridges was barely involved with anything. Just a very, very, very disappointing loss, I should say, for the New York Knicks. This is not something that I saw coming. I thought they would put up a bigger fight than this. I did not expect them to lose to the Detroit Pistons like this again. And, this goes back to the point that I've been making all year. Not just on this podcast. If you want to follow my podcast, The Dime with Josh and Quab, it's a general NBA podcast, and I just always make the point that the best teams in this league know their identity. They know exactly what they're doing every single game, right? The Pistons had a plan of action on the offensive end, on the defensive end. They were going to pick and roll with Cade Cunningham, and for whatever reason, this is your third time playing the Detroit Pistons, Mike Brown and company could not figure out a way how to stop the pick and roll. I understand that Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns are two players that might struggle in that situation, but the help defense wasn't there. The rotations weren't there. Overall, just a lackluster performance on the defensive end. Because when I think about this game in particular, I'm not really worried about the offensive side, right? I could say that OG didn't show up. I could say that Mikal Bridges wasn't involved. I could say Cat didn't show up till late. But they scored 111 points. The problem with today's game was on the defensive end. They could not stop Detroit for anything. Cade Cunningham did whatever he wanted all game. Unstoppable. And there was no change in coverage from Mike Brown. Maybe trap him at half court. Get the ball out of his hands early. There's no Jalen Duren. There's no Isaiah Stewart today. You don't have your secondary playmaker. The next best option on that team in the half court is Tobias Harris. Make Tobias Harris beat you. Don't let this guy go off for 40-plus, 10-plus assists. The Knicks have to figure this out. Last year against the Celtics, they didn't win a single game. They didn't beat teams like the Cavs, the Thunder, the Warriors, all the top teams the Knicks did not beat last year. And they don't have the same problem this year. But the Detroit Pistons seem to be a particular problem that they cannot solve and that they're going to have to go through in the NBA playoffs if they want to be NBA champions. They're going to have to figure this out. But most of all, they're going to have to figure out an identity, which is one I thought they were coming around to, right? Karl-Anthony Towns seemed to have accepted his role and seemed to be fitting in, and the defense has been better. Jalen Brunson was spraying the ball around, off ball, seemed to get more people involved. Defensively, they picked up the intensity. They were trusting each other. They're communicating more. Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson talked about that on their podcast, how they were able to trust each other on the defensive end. It was attention to detail, and it seemed like they were doing that. And today, it just seemed like it all went away. Now, I don't know if that's because of, the All-Star break. Maybe you come back, you're not as focused. Who knows? But it just wasn't there today. The Knicks just didn't have it. Mike Brown did not just have the adjustments. I think JB Bickerstaff is running circles around Mike Brown this year. And that's one thing we can't say about Tom Thibodeau the past 2 years. Tom Thibodeau always got the better of JB Bickerstaff. So, Mike, you got to step up your game here, man. This is why we brought you in, to be a little creative on the offensive end, but also to shore up that defense a little bit, You are also known as a defensive coach. In your time in Golden State, they credit you for being the defensive mastermind behind those teams. Let's see what you got here. It's time to make adjustments. This is where you're going to make your money. At the end of the day, all that matters is what happens in the playoffs. So I'm not too worried about it. Again, I've watched this team go 0-4 against the Boston Celtics last year and then pull off a series victory in 6. So I'm not losing faith here, but I am losing faith in the fact that this team doesn't know who they are. And we're running out of time to find an identity, because you're going to need an identity to win the NBA Finals this year. And that's what Knicks fans are expecting. Jerry Shohan debut was underused in my opinion with Mike Brown. You have Cade Cunningham, who's destroying Mikal Bridges, getting switches onto Jalen Brunson. OG wasn't effective. You bring out Mitchell Robinson to show on pick and rolls. He's splitting them. Put in Jeremy Shohan. Let's see what he can do. Now, he did get some couple tries in the fourth quarter there. He got a steal. There was another instance where Cade hit a step back three on him. But that's what we brought Jeremy Shohan for, was to have a defensive reinforcement. Right? That's what we wanted him for. We wanted situations like this for Jeremy. So I'm just kind of disappointed that Mike Brown did not use him there. Overall, just a disappointing loss. Now, next game is against the Houston Rockets. This is a team that has struggled offensively as well. At times, I fully expect the Knicks to bounce back here, but just very disappointed with how they played today. All right, well, that's going to do it. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Make sure you subscribe, like the video. I want to hear what you think after this game. I mean, I am someone who just, I was really high going into this second half of the season. I had high hopes for this game in particular. I thought this was a huge game. I'm not like Stephen A. Smith, in which I thought that this game would determine everything. But it is a game that I thought was pretty big and that the Knicks should have won and could have set the tone for the rest of the year. This could have been a game in which the Knicks turned their season around, quote unquote. I mean, they're 35-21. It's not they're having a bad year, but could have changed a lot of Knicks fans' mind about their team, and I don't think they did so. So back to the drawing board. We got Houston this weekend. Hopefully they get a victory then, but we'll see. Drop a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about today's game, about any adjustments you want Mike Brown to make, and about the game against Houston coming up. Make sure you subscribe, like the video. See you next time for an episode of Knicks Latest. Peace.